going through Devil's Canyon?
Yes, this is Devil's Canyon, north of Lower Monumental Dam.
There's no river in Devil's Canyon as far as we can tell.
As far as I know, it follows a very straight trajectory south of Kahlotus to the dam, a lot like the Palouse River. So my guess is that it was a flood basalt story where there was a joint fracturing in the basalts that created a plane of weakness that the floods took advantage of.
Okay.
Not 100% sure on that, but it's a lot. That's what happened with the Palouse Falls anyway.
Okay. So if we look up here, there's some nifty looking columns that are in a bunch of different configurations. How do they get to be in those different configurations?
We would call those rosettes because they kind of splay out in a flower-like pattern. So that happens because the cooling front of the basalt is perpendicular to the orientation that the columns form in. And so those are probably old erosional planes. Like there's one here where it kind of curves around like that. So that could have been an old like stream or river channel that the basalt filled in, and then because the old surface was curved, so was the cooling front.
Cool. Then there's some other tilted columns up that way. Is that the same situation? So right here, it's focusing on my finger now, don't do that. It looks, well, maybe it's just a rosette that isn't as rosette-y.
Yes, it can get complicated very quickly, and some of it's probably masked by all the talus on the erosional slope there.
What's talus?
Loose rocks, basically. A talus slope is just all those loose rocks that form that slope.
Okay. It looks like there might be some columns all the way to the top.
Oh, you know what?
What?
I think this is the basalt. This is the outcrop that we were supposed to be looking at.
Oh, well.
Yeah. It was just not the angle that I was expecting. Oh, it's unfortunate that we can't get there. Well, this is in car side Better Noah basalt, I guess.
I guess.
Doing something a little different today here on Better Noah basalt, where came out to see the Esquatzel member of the Sidle Mountains basalts, and we have two other units to look at. So behind me, on the left-hand side, is the Esquatzel entablature with an underlying colonnade, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But on this sort of knife edge black line in the middle of those two, there is a thermal erosion line where the subsequent Pomona basalt came in and eroded out the Esquatzel as it was flowing through an ancient river channel. And then both of those were subsequently capped by the Elephant Mountain basalt above it. As we walk down the road, there's a fence and this private property behind it, unfortunately, so we can't get a sample of the Esquatzel basalt today. But I'll just tell you that it's a ferric black basalt with plagioclase and clinopyroxene grains that are up to about 5 millimeters in size. And as I was talking about before, what you have here, this large blocky unit up top, that's the entablature. So the entablature, I've used that phrase before, you can think of it kind of as the table, and that overlies the columns or the colonnade that sort of hold up the table. So they're part of the same flow unit, and the columns form in the more thermally insulated part of a flow. And to the right, where the sort of hackly entablature changes into a more tan flow unit with a lot of rosettes of columns forming those splayed out patterns. Between those two is that thermal erosion line that I mentioned. And then overlying both of those is the Elephant Mountain basalt, which, if you remember from the other Elephant Mountain basalt video, this is the final flow down the ancestral Salmon River channel that capped it and kicked the whole thing down about 3 kilometers to the south. The Salmon River, or the Snake River today, it's a little closer than that in this area anyway. Hopefully the sense of scale of these basalts comes across on this video. There's not much to refer to other than, you know, these little shrubs at the base of the slope, which are a couple feet across probably. But we're looking at easily, you know, 50 meters of basalt here, and that's just part of the flow. And the Esquatzel basalts erupted somewhere further east between here and Lewiston. The source vents haven't been found yet, but they erupted about 70 cubic kilometers of basalt that traveled down the ancestral Salmon River and flooded part of the southern part of the Pasco Basin. As the oldest of these 3 flows, the Esquatzel erupted about 12 million years ago, maybe 12 and a half. And that's all you need to know about the Esquatzel basalts. So hope you join me next time as we get to better know a basalt. Well, it's a good thing you asked about the interesting stuff up this way.
Yay!
Or else I would have put out the wrong video and people would have been like, WTF.
We thought we could trust you.
Unsubscribe.